So we talked about resetting, restarting, and relearning, and this is part number 4 of our 1-month-long endeavor of how to do real estate properly, how to start your career, how to stay focused, how to be on top of your game. And what I try to give you all the tools for you to use every single day of how to actually manage and gain your business. All right? So I have a question. Did you do anything I told you to do? Seriously. Did you guys? I like to see hands who followed every single thing. That's one. Hands down. You can, Holly, you can put up your hand because I think you have done literally everything because you're here every day at 8:30 in the morning. You also here. It's important because work ethics, we haven't talked about it, it's not a popular subject, have a very, very strong work ethics, right? I'm not the smartest kid on the block, but I work harder than everybody else. You guys remember on number 2, there's a gentleman who does $100 million business a month? A month. And he said, what beats talent? Hard work when talent doesn't work hard. So, just keep that in mind. Hard work, in my opinion, trumps everything. Everything. So, let's have a little discussion, everybody. Did you guys finish building your database? When are you going to start? Because it's been a month. Oh no, it's not a personal attack, don't worry. I'm just asking. They're working on, say that doesn't work. Do it. Do it. Do it. Good. Do it and get it done. It's been a month. You need to finish your database, everybody, right? Because if you don't have your database now, after we've done our class, you know what's going to happen? Oh, I'm going to get it done tomorrow. Or next week, oh, I'm busy. I have kids. I don't feel good today. Yeah, well, I'm going to do it at some point. And a month from now, nothing going to get done. Procrastinating, right? Because life is just so busy. You get distracted with the election, you get distracted with stuff. So in my opinion, either you do it or you don't. I don't see anything between. Not kind of, sort of, I'm going to get to it. We have talked about it. If your database is ready, right, then what's number 2? Send out announcements. Why? Are you a secret agent? Anybody? Anybody in FBI? CIA? No? You are. Okay, great. You're not a secret agent. People need to know that what a wonderful team you are with. What are their accolades, right? And you need to announce that you are in business to be the professional real estate advisor, right? You are. If an individual agent, couple of us are, right? You can still do the same. Maybe the language needs to change, but the $10 to $15 in target, I hope you guys have the cards. You can start writing them to everybody you know. Everybody you know. Did anybody attend open houses? I have to see hands. Some success, no success, because that was something. I'm going to get to just a second. Very good. That was something that we discussed that is not a monthly schedule, that is literally every single weekend, Saturday or Sunday to get clients, right? How was your open house? It's okay? Good. Congratulations, you have done exactly what you need to do. I'd like to also have Holly to give us a success story, what happened last weekend. Can you please elaborate?
Sure. So I hosted an open house. I had a picture beforehand that I posted in social media. I paid $2 to boost it on Facebook for just 24 hours. But I did get one confirmed buyer out of it that thought she was looking in North Raleigh, but changed her mind to Apex. And she had mentioned Apex. She's actually renting there right now, but I think she's in the 3 to 350 range. And she had said, hey, I enjoy
Yes, yes, yes.
So that was great, and then there's another couple that may or may not, and then another one had a realtor, but I've got an upcoming open house on Sunday, and I'm gonna try to pump that up again, Facebook, $2 for a day, but this time I'm going to try, I'm still waiting to hear from the list agent on it, if it's okay with the seller to do, but to call the neighborhood, so I've already compiled the phone numbers, and that is cross-referenced with do not call list, for the ones that I can call, and I want to call the neighbors and say, hey, I'd love to invite you to this open house, it's right down the road from you, do you have any friends that you know that want to be your neighbor, live close to you, and then maybe that'll evolve into some other kind of discussion.
So what I'm hearing from you, Holly, because you took that step to an open house, you give it a chance for you to have more business and basically meet clients, and you have. The next open house you're doing, what I'm hearing from you is consistency, correct? Consistency. That's what gets you actually results. One open house a year, good luck with that. Hope you're very, very lucky. And I'm not saying that every single Saturday or Sunday. Actually, I am saying that. I'm sorry. I am saying that every single Saturday and Sunday, right? If you can. Now, if you have 5 buyers on Saturday, obviously, you're not going to do an open house. But since you're a new agent, try to do as many as possible, because you know what you're also going to see? Let's see in Durham, inside Durham, you're going to start doing open houses between 300 to 400. Let's say you have 3 or 4 of them. You're going to see the same people sometimes coming back and coming back and coming back. Now you're going to have something to talk about. Oh my gosh, did I not just see you last weekend? I'm here again, right? Now you can have a conversation with somebody instead of, oh, look at this beautiful house. So I do think it's a good idea for you to expose yourself in front of a public as a professional real estate broker who does open houses, investing in a community, calling the neighbors so actually they see your name. I love, did you guys hear what she said? That she actually had a little advertising on Facebook a day before the open house, and she spent a little bit of money to promote herself. Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what you need to be doing. Not at the open house. Remember, what is my favorite thing? Oh, hey, look at me. I have a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath. You think anybody going to just jump in that car and run to you? My guess not. So doing advertising before is a way to go. So congratulations. I'm very happy to hear that. Of course, of course. So, scripts. Who likes scripts? Who started to practice? Because you guys have teams, and the teams are the best place to have scripts is from a team, because guess what they have? A tremendous amount of resources, right? Individual agent, just ask me later. I'll be happy to help you. But if you're in a team, there is no excuse why you cannot practice scripts. Remember what I said? If somebody's making phone calls to either a for sale by owner, withdrawn listing, expired listing, right? Buyer, seller, doesn't matter. Team up with somebody and sit beside each other and record your conversation, right? I know, young man, that you're doing that when you talk because you find an app that you can record your conversation with somebody. Brilliant. Very happy that you follow that. But think about accountability, that your team member, and yes, somebody gonna laugh their asses off how you talk to somebody, right? But you can do the same thing in return next time that person calls. But guess what? Now you're calling. The whole idea is you're calling and you're practicing, right? And when you actually take notes for your colleague, what you should change or correct, guess what it does? Builds a habit of making the phone calls and correcting. Remember what I said? Repeat, repeat, repeat. Because your skills gonna be better each time when you call. I must admit, I used to be very good with cold calling. Then I quit because it was just taking too much time. Couple years later, I get back into it, and when somebody asked me a question, I didn't know how to answer it anymore. You know why? Because I was out of practice. I was out of practice. That's not a good thing to admit. Once again, I made a lot of mistakes. So you want to make sure that you stay in it and you stay top of that, because your skills have to be sharpened daily. Not yearly, daily, every day. So plan your daily schedule. Can anybody tell me what everybody is doing between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m.? Anyone volunteer? I have a volunteer. From 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. What is everybody doing? That's part of it. Anybody has a schedule? Yes, ma'am?
I was just going to give an example. You want to know my schedule?
Yes, I do need to know. We would love to hear your schedule, because I know someone else in a group has a schedule. I don't want to point out to her every single time, but I'd like to have some volunteers to tell me what is everybody doing from 8 a.m. to 8 or 8 p.m.
So from 8 to 11, prospecting.
Very good. Did everybody hear that? It was a daily activity, yes.
Lead generation. 11 to 12 is follow up on all the people and schedule anything that I need to do. 12 to 4, I'm doing whatever it is, training.
Learning, yes, sure.
Sometimes 11 o'clock is training, sometimes 1 o'clock is training. So that's like we're previewing homes, and like with you yesterday, with the girls and this gentleman on the other days. And then 4 to 6 is another region.
Very good.
And then you want like again, and then Sean Holmes at night in the evening if I have time.
Okay.
If not, then off.
And after 8 o'clock, you can tell everybody it's none of your damn business.
Well,
Because that is,
I have 2 glasses of wine and I'm because I started at 4.
wow. But you have a schedule. So the whole idea is, I know it sounds funny, but actually you have a schedule, which means even if you have to cut down on lead generation for 2 hours, at least you can plan your open houses, you can actually preview homes, you can get market night, you can do follow-up, right? You can write your little notes to your clients just to say hello, right? I know one of my clients who wrote me a very strong worded email that he's unable to purchase a house because unfortunately he went through COVID, and after he was healed, his wife had a stroke, right? And now she's in a long-term care facility. And he said that the most important thing in my life to make sure I can provide to her, right? And I said, I totally understand. And he does have the funds. Fortunately, he planned well ahead and had lengthy conversation with him. But because nobody's used to this crazy market, we have lost out on 3 lots to purchase, right? And we're going back and forth and back and forth. This is a good luck. No, I don't like it, because now I'm getting a pushback. The market is too hot. Maybe I shouldn't be buying, which I think, in my opinion, he's missing an opportunity, right? So the last email exchange we had, he said, well, I have legal issues. This is this happening. And, other people giving me advice not to purchase a home because I still have the legal problems, have my wife on and on, which I got. So I wrote back, I understand, and I'm sorry. We're going to stay in touch. That was about a month ago. So yesterday, I just thought about him because I know he's going through a hard time. And what I wrote is, this is not business related. I'm just checking to see how you're holding up, how the legal process is going. Stay in touch. Hope all is well. I have got an email back this long expressing gratitude and keep me updated how everything going in the legal process. So it's not necessarily you need to reach out to people and say, by the way, there's 95 houses sold and appreciation rate is 5.7% and I'm the best. Be a human, be you. Right? If you know somebody, because they will remember you. You don't even have to include your card. It's just sometimes an email. You know what? I do care. I do think it also matters because we're also professionals, but we're also humans. Right? So I'm not saying that you have to be this awesome nurturing type. Just be a good person. Right? Other than you're already a professional, you're doing everything right. But sometimes when people know that you care, in response as in kind, I'm sorry. So I do think it's important, right? So prospecting regularly, I think we just covered that, right? It's important to prospect regularly because I want to bring up statistics again because it seems that our inventory is down today, October 28, 2020, 47.4% compared to last year. That means we have a half of the houses to sell and we have twice as many agents. What do you think going to happen? Because I'm also a listing agent, I can tell you. One of my listings I sold, I had 12 offers. 12. 12. And I'm also going to tell you something. I have seen offers that I was scratching my head that who was that person. I cannot curse because we live, but I was about to do that. So who was the person who hired you, who in multiple offer situation, you give me asking price with 500 due diligence? You know why people do that? Because they have no clue how to conduct business. They have no clue how to build relationship. They have no clue how to carry themselves, right? I very much appreciate that in that situation, which we're going to talk about it at some other time because there might be some other training later, maybe, to the person who actually he got in the contract, he's the one who called me, and said, by the way, I have a very interested buyer. We would love to get the house. I am sending you the offer. I would greatly appreciate if you consider it. He didn't get the house because of that. But for me to know there's an agent who cares, and I know him from the past, right? It was just a good feeling as a listing agent. So to me, a personal touch goes a long way. Relationships, you guys remember what I mentioned? Build relationships with whom? Who can send you business? Anybody? Everybody. And also somebody out of state. Another agent out of state. Not a phone call, by the way, going to give you more referral fees. That's not the relationship. But talk to them. How's their business? Who they are, right? Because I do think it's important for you to have that connection because, see, those are the agents can send you business. So the relationship, that agent had a relationship, prior relationship with me. Therefore, right, I felt good about awarding them the house. He was the winning bid by accident, go figure. But it made me feel good because our relationship went so smoothly, our transaction so smooth, no hiccups, right? So I do think it's important for you guys to invest in relationship with others as well. So I'm gonna go back again to talk about this at the third time. Scripts, again. Can anybody tell me why? Because practice keeps perfect, right? Keeps perfect. Makes perfect. Not enough coffee. Right? Practice, record, internalize, listen and correct, and repeat, right? So how do you think some teams or some agents have a whole lot more listings than others? You think by accident? I'm not going to point you out. Somebody sitting in the back, I was referring to that person. Because somebody actually took their time and practiced, it became the best at it. Not just good, the best. The best, right? You want to be the best? Keep practicing. Keep learning. Keep doing every single day. Every single day. The same. The same. That's calling, prospecting, open houses. What else? Writing the cards, building relationships, right? Follow up, and follow up. I think it's important. So we talked about scripts. So now you guys are excellent on the phone. And let's say you get somebody who's a young person, and that young person, because they have so much information on Google, read somewhere they need to interview at least 3 agents before they make a decision who they're going to work with. And you are one of them because you happen to call them. So let's talk about when you go meet that person. What's next? Do you have a buyer's presentation? Anybody? Yes. I know you do. But does everybody? What does it contain? I like to have an open conversation because I have some ideas that I have to share with you. I like to know what you guys put in your buyer's presentation and how effective that is, right? May I start with you, please? And if you don't have one, it's quite okay. It's a conversation, it's not pointing fingers. Just making sure you know that.
I have a buyer for this, including working with real estate agents. and plus the agency agreement, but not for them to sign it, just for them, a sample for them to look through, so they have an idea of
Very good.
what kind of contract is. And I also include the lender information, inspectors information, pest control information, just basic like if you are purchasing a house, what services you need. I have some of the company's information, so you can contact them if they need. And I also include the professional service disclosure.
Okay. That's good.
That's it.
Sorry. Want to add anything to it? Anybody you want to build on to what you just said? So what we actually have the buyer's agency contract working with real estate agent, name of inspectors, and what was else? Oh, how the.
Sorry, I said it.
Okay. And basically how the process works. I like us to build onto it because I think it's a very, very good start. Everybody's opinion will differ. Mine will as well. Anybody like to add to it or subtract? Yes, ma'am?
So I've only presented mine one time, and that was virtually, and it was a family that had never bought a home before, so I felt like it was very beneficial, and I was actually providing value, so it went really well, so they were paying attention. But I have it in a Google file, in my Google Drive, and there's 3 parts to it. I got the idea from Charity. She did a buyer's presentation to us, but I do have in that PowerPoint, and that's mainly what I use to go through. And so it was an introduction, and then a little bit about me as well and my background, and then getting into the team, so a little bit about Marty.
So because just make sure everybody hears, because we are on record, right? So what we also adding on is a personal introduction. It's almost like a resume, correct?
Right.
Who you are, that's great. So now we have the forms, now we have a personal introduction. That's great. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am, sorry.
That's kind of like my commitment to you as an agent, what my duties are to you being your agent, and then a section of how agents are compensated. So I find a lot of buyers have no idea.
Oh, very good. So, very good. So what we're adding onto it is another personal touch of how I work for you and how I get paid and how compensation works, right? Great.
Kind of a discovery questionnaire on what they're looking for, their needs, like a needs-based assessment, and regarding client, like what home, their wish list and their deal breakers, and also lending information and how important it is to get pre-qualified.
Very good. So we're also going to have a home finder profile to make sure that you understand what buyers are looking for, and also have information for the lenders. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
I like to kind of prepare them, like say the costs that are associated with buying a home. Like sometimes they don't know about the inspection, the appraisal, stuff like that. Because sometimes they'll just think, oh, it's just a down payment, or what are closing costs. So I explain that a little bit.
So what we also have, somebody has added that we need to have a cost breakdown for a buyer to see how much services cost. Great idea. Anybody else?
I'm tagging on to the sample forms, but I feel like it's good for them to have a copy, the sample offer to purchase, so they can review that, and then a copy of all the other forms that are going to need to be signed when an offer is actually purchased, just so that they can have that. And then also, it's a lot of information for them, so just telling them to, just try to listen and ask questions all along the way, but knowing that, hey, I'm going to send this to you in an email, so you'll have it. You can always refer back to it if you need to.
So I think it's all good. So I do think what we discussed is a ton of information. What I experienced in the past, that everything you guys have added is fantastic. That's great. I use a combination of it that works for you, right? One thing I'm almost 100% sure that nobody will ever read what you give them. unless it's information that is very easy to review, because nobody's going to read through the contract, nobody's going to read through the buyer's agency, right? So I think at some point you have to discuss with them, by the way, here are the forms. You don't need to read it. Maybe next time we can discuss, right? Because nobody going to read it. So now you have your information about yourself, right? Information about lenders, information about cost, but what else you think we're missing? Market information, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's how you set yourself apart from them. Because I assume when you're meeting a buyer to interview, right, you're not going to be meeting them blind. That means, let's say a Zillow lead called you and a Zillow lead called you about the house at 350, right? You might want to prepare some ideas of what's on the market, what was sold, how fast things are selling, right, on the price point, what is the appreciation, just a couple of lines. Once again, you don't have to print 25 pages. But when you prepare, they will appreciate that, because guess what? You took your time to do some research for them when you meet them. And even if the price point is at 450 or 250, it doesn't matter. What you can also say, I can revise. I just want to make sure you know that I'm here to serve you. I'm here to help you. So this is some information I'd like to share with you. I've done a little bit of homework, right? I'm pretty certain people are going to say, I appreciate that, right? Because it's showing your willingness and eagerness to help them. I like the idea of what you can provide, what service you can provide to them. I think is brilliant, right? I do think you need to actually sharpen that, because a lot of people are going to have something, how great they are, right? I have a 20-page buyer presentation, 20 pages. That's outside of cost. That is outside of literally everything. We haven't discussed this, but if you're a buyer's agent, does anybody have a buyer's agent ABR designation? I do. Why do you think that is? Because I'm an accredited buyer's representative. Accredited. Do you want to be just another broker, or would you like to have a designation that shows your commitment? Because I also have about 3 pages elaborating what an accredited buyer's representative does versus other agents that don't have that, because obviously did not invest themselves into themselves to have something more and better to how to protect their interest. So that means I have a great advantage over all of you currently. Correct? I don't want to take advantage. I like you guys to have advantage over me. Get your green certificate. You guys are young. Everybody want to save energy. Get your green certificate. Get your ABR. Pick a designation that actually you can relate to. You can relate to. So you can be a professional, not just another realtor or another broker, because that's dime a dozen. Everybody has a license, right? Everybody has a license. So when you have designations, right? You know what my clients noticed a couple of years ago? That those things behind me just keep growing. They ask me what they are, right? Because I do invest. What I tell them is, look, I invest in myself so I can be the best of the best you can rely on to actually ask questions from. And I can serve you better, right? Because if I cannot serve you better, then how good am I? How good am I? Right? I'm just another agent who tried to get business. So I separate myself by higher education. It's a certification, yes. ABR, accredited buyer's representative, right? You have to take a class, and they give you a lot of wonderful papers to read, how to do a better job for your buyers, because guess what we do? We represent buyers. So if you represent buyers, don't you think you need to be on top of your game? I think so.
And can all this be found at NAR?
Put in ABR designation on Google, and it's going to come up, and basically you can sign up and you can take a class.
And then the other one said was getting the green certificate.
So let me go back. So there's a green certificate, yes. There's also certificates for luxury homes. There's about 25 different certificates. Pick the ones you're passionate about. Pick the one that actually is in your marketplace, or in my opinion, as your niche or clientele. Here is why. Let's say you're a brand new agent and you're selling $200,000 houses in Nidale. You might don't want to get your luxury certificate first. Not just yet. Maybe you get it 5 or 10 years from now, but at least you can get an ABR. At least you can get something you can offer a different look for the buyers, something extra you can give them in knowledge and in preparation to help them and protect their interest, right? Everything I'm telling you, it will come in play, not on this hot market. In this hot market, a lot of people don't care. They just want to have an agent and want to see the house. When the market changes, and at some point it will, my business usually goes up even more. You know why? Because people want to talk to a professional. Because now they need someone to protect their interest. Today, interest rates are cheap, not enough houses. I want to buy something because if I don't, I'm going to miss out. And that is great, but at some point the music is going to stop. And if you're not prepared, if you don't have the designations, if you don't have everything what I told you, or the habits, you'll be out of business. Simple as that. You will be out of business. I have seen that in 2008, 2009, out of business. Because my business cut down by 70%, not 30, 70. In 2008, I was a #1 agent in Wake County. In 2009, I didn't know if I'm going to make it. Right? But I was prepared, and I still work just as hard. Everything has changed. But if you're not prepared, if you don't have a base, you're done. A lot of agents were. So I just want to make sure you know that what I'm telling you is a preparation for the future, not for today. So, what is the best way? What do you do first when you go and meet a new buyer? You guys know that. Start with a smile. Why? Because people like when other people smile. Because if you walk up to someone and you didn't have a good day, hey, I'm Thomas. Oh my God, right? But if you show up to somebody, say, by the way, I'm Thomas, very nice meeting you, right? It's a smile. Now you're friendly. So I want to make sure you know, don't forget to smile. It has a lot of power in my opinion. We also need to discuss how to turn a no into a yes. Why would people say no? Well, because you're asking the wrong questions, in my opinion, right? You're asking the wrong question. So learn how to ask better questions. I mean, we can go into examples over examples over examples, right? But make sure you figure out what they would interest them, what they would want. Are you looking for a 3-bedroom house? No. That's not the right question. You know? So there's certain ways you can ask. That's why you practice. Right? So confidence, knowledge to overcome objections. Because people are going to object to many, many things. Not everybody is nice. Not everybody is caring. Not everybody is straightforward. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes people tell you A and then do B. And it's okay as long as you learn how to handle objections. You are a professional. You do everything in your power to give it the best chance, right? And in 95% of the cases, it works. Sometimes it doesn't, and it's okay. But if you're not prepared, that percentage goes from 95 to 70, or 50, or 45. Where would you like to be? Where would you rather be? On the top, right? So that's the reason I say, make sure that you learn. Because when you learn, you became what? An expert and a professional. I always say, that is my quote, solve the issues before they become a problem, right? A lot of agents don't have the knowledge. So I try to actually solve some of their issues they don't even know about, they don't even know how to express, to walk them through so it doesn't become a problem. For example, negotiating, right? Inspections, due diligence, right? A lot of people don't know because they never had a training and they're new in a business, or they've been in a business for 30 years, they just didn't practice. So it's going to be your job to make sure you can walk your colleagues through something that it doesn't affect you, because if you're on a buyer side or a listing side or with your buyers, right? They see an issue, but if you don't tell them, if you don't have a knowledge to help them to understand, it will be a problem. Because they don't understand, you know what everybody does when they don't understand something? As their friend who's absolutely not qualified to look on Google. Right? Why is it important? Because if you don't tell them, or you tell them, they're gonna check. But I think it's a better idea for you to actually tell them, hey, look, this is maybe what you're going to find on the internet if you know there's a problem, but this is how reality is, right? So I think it's important. Daily scheduling, we just touched base on this. 8 to 8, 7 days a week. Don't forget, it's your daily schedule that's going to make a difference, in my opinion, to hold yourself accountable for your own actions. What I would propose to do is to pick an agent in your team, or pick a friend, another agent, whomever that might be, that you have that competition, quote unquote competition, to see who can actually have more people in their database, who can make better phone calls, who can make more appointments, and team up with somebody to do that. I don't think it's a bad idea at all. Because then you can hear each other talking, you can laugh, you can curse, you can do whatever. But now that is somebody going to tell you, by the way, miss, 8 to 9 is your time to call. Did you call? No, I didn't. I was brushing my hair. Great. What I'm saying is that if you're doing that, if somebody actually going to be doing that, you better catch up. I'm not saying that you do it. I'm just saying it just in general. Just make sure you hold yourself accountable. And maybe if you have a hard time with that, have a partner who can do that for you. A lot of people have coaches, right? My opinion, not on camera, about coaches, some are extremely good, some are not, just like us, right? But usually coaches, what they tell you, they're going to hold you accountable for what you do every day. If you follow this, it's free. You don't have to pay for that. It's free. Accountability. That's your lesson. Accountability for yourself. You just saved $1,000. Right? So, what do we do every day on your daily scheduling, which must include what? The following. Build and manage your database, correct? That's daily, remember, not monthly. Prospecting, make a connection. Every day, make a connection. Follow up. Why need to follow up? Because they're going to forget you if you don't. Simple as that. Market knowledge, preview homes. Why do you need to do that? To know and understand the market, perhaps? Right? Maybe to understand constructions. Maybe when you walk up to a house and you see something and they ask you a question, you're not going to say, oh, by the way, let me find out for you. Or let me call somebody to find out. How good are you? Because people are going to start after a third question to say, you don't know anything. You just don't know anything. If you have to ask somebody always to find something else out that you should know, then you're not a professional. You're just there to open houses. I always tell my clients, I'm not a taxi cab driver. If you're looking for somebody to just open a door for you, find another agent. I have an opinion. I invested 27 years of my life to be a pro. If you like it, it's great. If you don't, it's okay. It depends what you want out of buying a $500,000 investment, right? And when you can talk like that, people will know and understand that you're not desperate for their business. They should be desperate for your business, not vice versa. I have numerous times I told my clients, by the way, I appreciate you talking to me, but let's get one thing straight. You need me far more than I need you. Right? A lot of people just chuckle, and it's okay. But that's the truth. Because I see them making horrible mistakes. Right? So I want to make sure you know, obviously, you don't have to be arrogant about it. That's not what I teach. But you have to have a confidence and knowledge for you to know that. And even if you don't need to say that to the buyers, maybe I have, because maybe I didn't want to work with somebody. But just make sure you know that. Make sure you know that you do have a knowledge base. When you walk up with a confidence and a smile, people will notice that, right? So I want to make sure that we touch base on that, because this, I'm not going to say it's your Bible, because obviously people go to church, but to make sure you understand this is a daily activity every single day. Not every single week, every single month. It's daily. Daily. So what do we do when we actually keep following your daily schedule, right? You track your numbers. Track your numbers, how many connections you made, how many people you put in your database, right? And you set yourself a goal. What is your goal? Your goal is to have 5 people in your database? Fine. See how you can meet that. That means 1 a day per week, right? 5 per week. Whatever goal is. I will be more ambitious with that, but make sure you have a goal, because if you don't have a goal, what are you looking forward to? Right? What is that you're looking forward to? Another miserable day in business, then you cold calling people and nobody answers? That's just a fact of life. That's not a goal. Right? Your goal is to build your business. The goal is to be better every single day and learn every single day. Remember we talked about personal promotion? Holly, you're awesome. You did exactly what we discussed a couple of weeks ago, right? Open house, day before, personal promotion on Facebook. Great. Keep doing it, people will notice, right? Now, open house today, or next weekend, or this weekend, you're going to be calling the neighbors, exactly. Once again, old school and new school. What I mean is social media versus the good old handshake and good old phone calls. Both works differently. But when used in combination, it's going to equal to results. Some people, a lot of people, for example, when I have my buyer's presentation, everything is printed. It's printed. It is not on a tablet. I'm not saying follow what I do, but it works for me. Because people say, don't you want to save paper? And I said, I do, but I'm old school. Right? I get my license in the 90s. Right? Tablets are great, but I also give them something for them to take with them. Versus, oh, by the way, guys, memorize this because I'm going through 25 slides. Make sure you memorize it, because after I leave in 30 minutes, it's going to be a quiz later. They don't even remember what you just showed them. So I like the idea of having a folder, right, with material in it to give them, right? Once again, your opinion might differ from them, and for different buyers, it works differently. So that's the reason we're discussing it, to make sure you can actually think about how you set yourself up for your business, right? Because you need to find your own niche, right? You need to find your own niche. Your niche is not to be a real estate broker. That's just a fact. You already have a license. So what is your niche, right? You don't have to know it today. Just think about that. What is your passion? You can have your niche as a buyer's representative for first-time home buyers, right? You can have a niche that you've been in business long enough that you can do luxury buyers. You can have a niche that you actually need to actually work with cultural buyers. That's a niche. I have a lot of that. 70% of my business are cultural buyers. That is my niche, right? Because I reach far versus just focusing on a small group. But there are agents, specifically inside the backline in Raleigh, you never see their name outside of that. Have you seen their numbers? The amount of business they do? Tremendous. Tremendous. And the reason is because they have a narrow focus and they have a specialty, right? If you don't have a specialty, and you don't have to have one, you'll be running around again and chasing leads. Now, I'm not saying that your client shouldn't be looking at a house in Zebulon or in Chapel Hill or Durham, but the type of buyers you attract, and obviously it's prospecting, right? At some point, gonna show you what is your specialty, what is your niche. We haven't talked about focusing on a certain area. I did relocation. Therefore, I know the entire triangle, not as well as a local agent probably who only does 4 neighborhoods. And I'm happy it works for them. But my clientele is different. So I can tell them what the differences are between Orange County, Durham County, Wake County, Johnson County. I think a buyer would appreciate that, right? So you need to actually have the market knowledge and the confidence to do that. So it brings me to my very important point that is going to be a beautiful visual presentation, right? Do you guys know construction? And it's okay if you don't, because what I try to show you are areas that, in my opinion, all of us should learn from. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. Do you guys know what the differences are and what to look for? Exactly. So let me just tell you some common issues or typical, whether if it's okay, right? You need to know this. Foundation types, for example, slab foundation, crawl space, basement, poured or block. Asbestos, lead-based paint, polybutylene piping, aluminum wiring, mold, copper pipes, PEX pipes, PVC pipes, masonite siding, EFI stucco, certainty shingles, radon, cedar or rough-cut pine siding, cement compound siding, and masonry fireplaces. The list just goes on and on and on. Is any of these subjects familiar to you guys? That is much more. That is much more. Some are okay and some are typical for a type of construction. So even if you know that, right, you don't have to be scared and run to the hills and say, oh my God, this house had lead-based paint. And I heard that it's bad. Well, that's a stupid statement. Learn what those items are. Learn what you need to look for and educate. Some subjects you shouldn't be an expert on. You just need to know about it so you can refer to an expert. Example, asbestos. Anybody knows asbestos? Anybody knows it's good or bad? Is it friable or not friable versus lead-based paint? Is it friable or non-friable? Correct, but if you leave it untouched, guess what? It's perfectly fine. Is lead-based paint, anybody knows, friable or not? Well, that's exactly it. So now we have 3 different opinions, right? It's not friable until you sand it, right? If you sand that, yes, it's friable. I'm going to show you some pictures so we can have a conversation in regards to what houses look for different type of siding. Isn't that lovely? Can somebody tell me what this type of siding is versus that type of siding or a style of it? I don't know. I don't know. So we're going to have a conversation, right? We're going to have a conversation because I want to make sure that we're correctly addressing that. Is it cedar? I don't know. But what I'm seeing is wood. Wood siding. It could be pine. This could be cedar, but it's wood siding. What do we know about wood siding? It can be stained or painted. Does anybody know what's advantage cedar over pine?
Cedar is more resistant to insects.
Yes, very good. Especially what? Termites. Yes, very good. What about redwood siding? When do you see redwood siding? I couldn't find a picture of that. Anybody? Have you heard of redwood? If you do a lot of business in downtown Durham or downtown Raleigh, you will, because my house had redwood siding. I didn't even know it until I removed that. Because my house, excuse me, had a vinyl siding because somebody was tired of painting it. You know what was wonderful about my house in 1950? No bugs, no termites, no rot. That siding was intact after 70 years. It came from California that no longer harvests redwood. But it's a phenomenal siding. You might see it, you might don't. Can anybody tell me what that is? Style-wise? Board and batten, that is correct. So what would be typical for this versus that? Just typical. This usually board and batten is very typical for contemporary houses that were built when? Literally throughout the last 50 years. But if it's a new house, most likely you can actually associate yourself with this siding to a siding that's called hardy plank. Or, what's the other name? Because hardy plank is actually a name brand. Fiber cement boards, that is correct. So when you see this that is newer, I'm pretty certain it will have that. These boards, let's talk about it. One common issue that I see on houses, that when you actually have construction, just like this, each board is meeting another board, and some inspector will call it whether it needs to be caulked, or actually whether it would penetrate the siding, because they're literally about, I don't know, quarter inch apart. You think it's a problem? Wrong. Not necessarily. Why do I say not necessarily? Because if you cheat just a little bit and you look on this picture, you know what this is? It's flashing right behind the siding. So if you put a quarter inch apart, if any rain gets in, it basically flows out. Some builders do that, some builders don't. So instead of we, as real estate brokers, say, oh my God, you see those gaps, it needs to be caulked? Not necessarily. One of my favorite builders who is not custom, MI Homes, have this method. It's one of the best you can do. So you don't have to actually recaulk it every 2 to 3 years, because caulk does what? It cracks. When you're recaulking something, there is no way you can match it. So those are the things we need to learn and understand. Can anybody tell me what I'm saying in here? What's the problem? On the top? Water, yes, that is water penetration, but why? Do you see a difference between this and that? What's the difference? Oh, love it, yes. What type of siding do you think that is? Masonite. Anybody knows that Masonite actually have different type of Masonite and had a class action lawsuit against Masonite that has been settled a long time ago? You guys know what the lawsuit was about? You know what to look for? Yes. Masonite was installed incorrectly. Also, obviously, because it was installed incorrectly and because nails are penetrating the siding, right, and is not sealed properly, it swells up. When you see Masonite siding and it's perfectly intact, it's just a Masonite siding that actually is well maintained. But when you have an inspection, you might have something from an inspector stating exactly what I just told you. It had a class action lawsuit. The problem they had is nailing pattern. And to simplify everything, you guys can gain some construction experience. There's a difference when you start the siding from bottom up or from a top down. When you start anything from a top down, you have to nail through each board. That's the Masonite. When you start something from bottom up, when you nail the first board in, you cover it with another siding so there are no nail heads exposed. Stupid problem, but it's a problem, right? What do we see in here? Vinyl siding. You think it's installed correctly? Probably not, because it's missing a wrap, a house wrap, or insulation on top of the house wrap. But that is actually vinyl. What about this? Looks kind of warped and funky. What siding reacts to this? Nope. I'll give you a hint. Vinyl, why? Heat, yes. You know where you see this a lot? In newer construction, when houses are so close together that when the sun shines and hits a window and that reflects into the side, then you're going to see a lot of warping or melting. It doesn't mean it's defective, it just means it has a lot of heat. Should it be replaced? It's cosmetic. Right? So once again, those are the things you're going to see and understand. Sometimes the house only have a 4 foot by 5 foot section that actually is melted, look like this. Only one side. Look for a window.
Does vinyl siding normally come as the house cracked prior to putting on the vinyl siding?
It's supposed to. It's supposed to. Because so vinyl siding not supposed to let any water in, but a lot of times, I mean, you can put it up like that, sure. But different contractors install them differently. I know you're not supposed to. It is a manufacturer recommendation. You can ask 100 different people. They're going to give you 100 different answers, right? See, to me, just because I built my own house, having a house rep, right, will protect your house regardless. I'm going to tell you something. They're going to give you some knowledge that there is a builder. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to get sued, but there is a builder national builder in town who actually forgot to put the hash up on some of their houses in the area. And the house starts rotting, and it settled a huge class action lawsuit 3 years ago. Right? So it's important to have it. And they had actually hardy board siding. Anyway, so this is just some thoughts and some ideas. Next slide, please. What am I seeing in here? Harley, that's exactly what you mentioned. These are the exposed nail heads. What's in here? What do you see? Tell me. It's typical for what era? 50s and 40s, correct. So most likely what this siding gonna have? Asbestos and lead-based paint, most likely. Do you want to start scraping it? Oh, correct. But if it's intact, it's perfectly fine. What is this guy doing in a suit? Halloween? Removing, yes. Now, whether right or wrong, it's a question, because if you're exposing asbestos, if it's friable, maybe you don't breathe it, maybe the neighbors will. But I have seen when they're removing it, they have a bubble over the house to seal up the area. This is just an example. If somebody asks you there's an asbestos, or you see a house from the 1940s, I would highly encourage you to tell them to have the test. How about if they have 3 small kids? They could have lead-based paint, they could have asbestos, right? Why is it important? Well, lead-based paint is not friable. Have you guys watched TV? I do. That was a case made national news. Ended up in a lawsuit, and somebody went to jail over lead-based paint. And the reason being is because what has happened, I'm going to just tell you very quickly. There was a lady coming from a different country with limited English, and she had children, 2 children, right? The landlord, where she rented a place, and that house was, I don't know, by 1940s maybe, right? Should have signed a lead-based disclosure form. Because the lady had limited English, they didn't care. So a year later, or 6 months later, she had an older child and a younger child. The younger child started to get sick. Took him to the hospital. They couldn't find out what was wrong with him, so they took him home back. And then get sick again, and sicker. Then he died. He died. He was a year old, right? And then when they did the autopsy and basic tested his blood, he suffered from horrible lead-based poisoning. Horrible lead-based poisoning. Do you know why? Because the railing on that building was flaking off lead-based paint, and the little boy was eating at the little chips. So do we think lead-based paint is important? Right? Do you think a disclosure is important? Absolutely. Because the second part of the story was that the landlords have forged her signature. They informed her. They forged her signature because they knew they were in trouble. Do you want to be that agent? To go to jail and lose your license? To make sure you read about lead-based paint. You don't have to be an expert. But you need to know it's a problem and make sure you have a lead-based paint disclosure. The only one house my clients tested for lead-based paint was my house. My own house that I was selling, right? I had lead-based paint on one window because I replaced everything on one window. And they had 2 small kids. Without a question, I replaced that, repainted that before they moved in to make sure also that all the flakes were picked up from the ground. Right? So it's important for you to know those. Because if you don't tell them that you can test for it and something happens, it's your fault. It's your fault. And you can tell them all day long, by the way, read about it. It's not their job, it's your job to inform them. We have disclosures for that to make sure, don't forget that. What about water lines? Anybody knows about water lines? This is just a quick overview. There's many more than I actually just put up. Have you guys seen this? It's gray. Polybutylene pipes, PB pipes, class action lawsuit. Because they had a very high failure rate. Right? Read about it, please. Is polybutylene pipes bad? A lot of people are scared, forgive me, you can blimp at that shitless when they see polybutylene pipes and basically cancel contracts. You think it's a good idea to disclose or have a conversation with your seller, right? So what's the difference between this and that? There's also polybutylene pipes. I personally would have never have an issue with this versus that. That I would be scared. It has copper fittings. Yes, because after they had a very high failure rate, builders were going into polybutylene pipes. Yes, the lawsuit included the pipes, but it was literally the fittings that actually exploded and leaked, right? Mainly. So I had actually polybutylene pipes with copper fittings from 1980s, never had a leak, never. I'm not saying that it's a safe bet. All I'm saying that your failure rate is just about eliminated. But learn about it because your buyers will freak out. If you go on Google, all you're going to see is attorneys and plumbers want to replumb your house for thousands of dollars because it's horrible. And make sure you're scared to death that you have to do it. And people believe that. What about this? Can anybody recognize these? There's a hot and cold, yes. I'm not going to say, in my opinion, why they have two different colors, but that's a newer type. It's called PEX, right? PEX. Is PEX good? Sure, that's the latest and greatest. Shall we talk about PEX fittings? I learned something last week that completely blindsided me. And I know construction. Had an inspector, in my opinion, he misstated a problem, didn't know how to react to it, right? Because PEX also now has a class action lawsuit against him. Read about it. Don't be an expert, just read about it, right? I can tell you that what I read about it, that most houses built after 2008 with PEX, not an issue, but 2004, 2005, 2006 might be. Might not be, but might be. Make sure you read about it. You guys know what this is? Cast iron waste pipes. They're about 4 inches and extremely heavy. That's what I had in my house from 1950, 1960. Is it bad? Not in my opinion, it's perfectly sturdy, right? But if people want to ask you, what's that under the house? That's the waste pipe. Do we need to replace that? No. Nothing wrong with it. When we stand the times. What about this? That's copper. On layman's term, you're going to see some discharge around copper pipes and copper fittings. Discoloration. In layman terms, the reason you have that, not because the copper pipe is leaking, because the plumber never wiped up the flux when they solder them together. That's it. Soldering requires chemicals. And when the soldering is done, my plumber who I hire for my house wipes them off. So that you will not see, most likely. One thing, it's nothing bad, but it looks scared, it looks like it's leaking, because it's discoloration. It doesn't mean that. Then you also have CPVC, right? I don't think they're making plumbing lines anymore with CPVC, but you might see a house that had that. I'm not aware of any class action lawsuit, but learn about that, please. Oh, has anybody sold a house and inspector wrote up that it has CSSD gas pipe, it needs to be grounded? Yes. Pretty much every single house we sell, or I have sold in the last 5 years, have the same comments. It needs to be grounded. Does anybody know why? And why the inspector didn't catch that when the house actually passed CO 10, 15 years ago?
Changing code, right?
Mm-mm. That's what you would think it's not. It's not changing code. It was about manufacturer recommendation was never enforced by the code inspectors. Simple as that. It was never enforced. I'm not going to say what has happened because honestly, I don't know, but that's why. And the theory behind that is that if a lightning hits your house, that could explode because it has what? Steel. It's steel inside. So it has to be grounded, right? Haven't seen that happen, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But it needs to be grounded by code. How much does it cost if somebody asks you? $200 to $300 maybe at the most. Electrician needs to be come in and basically ground the gas meter, right? So, wiring. You don't have to be an expert, but can anybody tell me what do I see in here, here, and here? When you see yellow lines, highly likely is a newer type of wiring called Romex, right? Although that is also Romex wire, but this is a newer type of wiring, right? You're going to see it in new construction. It's a brand. It's just newer type of wiring, right? I'm not going to tell you that they should or should have not passed code. In my opinion, should have never passed code because I don't think you can bundle 80 wires together because if one of them actually, something happens, one of the wires, it will burn down literally everything around it. But that's actually just a newer type of pipe. You guys see this one, what that looks like? What do you see? Copper, aluminum. Has anybody seen aluminum wiring? Should be a disclosure for sure. Specific from 1970s, because aluminum wiring requires special sockets, right? Don't have to be an expert, but you need to know that. A lot of the boards have been recalled for safety because they're caught on fire. You need to know that. Why? Because apparently you're supposed to apply some kind of a spray when you secure into the socket so it doesn't do what? Resonate, because when it resonates or moves, it sparks, right? So those are the things good to know. You don't have to go into great details when you talk to your buyers, but good to know those things. This is just a cluster F. I'm pretty sure you're going to see it in an inspection report that in an attic or anywhere really, all of these have to be in what? Capped and in a junction box. For the same reason, you don't want to leave live wires exposed. Not only to get electric shock, but also it's a fire hazard. All of this should be in a junction box. How much does it cost? I don't know, $5 maybe. So when you see this, you say, oh my God, it's against the code. It's an open wire. All of us going to die, the house going to burn down. No, know your trade, right? Have you guys seen anything like that? Typical for the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, and 60s, right? Because this is also copper wiring, but a very different coating around it. If I'm not mistaken, it's fiber coating. That's old style, there's nothing wrong with it. But they don't make it, they make it out of vinyl today. So you actually have insulated wires, hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and neutral. I hope that it's not a cold. Anyways, then you actually have insulation around it. That is also the type of aluminum wiring. You just need to know about it and once again, read about it. And you don't have to actually go into a house and pick out the wiring immediately, but when you see it on an inspection report, you need to be able to understand what the problem is or why somebody would write it up. If a house is from 1972 in perfect shape, but it's aluminum wiring, highly likely it's not a fire hazard after 50 years. But has there been a problem in the past? Yes. Of course it has. So I think it's important for you guys to know and understand some construction practices, good or bad, for you to actually educate yourself. Asbestos and lead-based paint. Remember that story I told you about flaky? That's flaky. Have you seen a house from the 60s or 40s with this awesome tile? Or this tile? That's full of asbestos. I will propose a question. They stopped using asbestos in the late 1950s, mid 1950s. And maybe I'll tell you a story. When I was remodeling my house that was built in 1961, I'm not aware of that actually there was any insulation in my house that was actually had asbestos in it. And I was correct, that wasn't, because they stopped putting asbestos into those houses. But when I was removing the sheetrock, right, and I saw a lot of dust, I started to think, could it be possible for a sheetrock to have asbestos? Because when it's actually intact, who cares? But when you remove it, it flies. You guys know what I learned? Answer was no. So there was no asbestos in a sheetrock, but guess where they had asbestos in? The sheetrock mud. By weight, 25%. 25%, which means if I wanted to send that, I would be breathing asbestos. Because it was intact, who cares, right? Lead base paint asbestos intact, you can paint it, not a problem. But when you start moving things, especially when your client starts remodeling, I think it's a good idea for you to tell them that you're remodeling a 1940s house, there are some risks associated. And if you have asbestos, it costs 10, 20, 30, I don't know how much it costs. Removal, remediation, right? So you have to have an environmental expert. We haven't actually touched base on oil tanks. That's another subject on its own. Also environmental, but read about oil tanks, the pluses, minuses, why people are scared, and when you can find them, because heat was very predominant before air conditioning, correct? 1930s, 1940s, you're gonna see houses with an oil burning furnace in a basement or a cellar basement. Anybody knows what a cellar basement is? Look it up, right? So it's important for you to know, because it was perfectly fine for the 1940s, but if you see the same thing in a house from a 2005, you would scratch your head like, what's going on? You're not gonna see it, but you never know what you see. That's the whole idea, you just never know. So for you to know the basics, what to look for, right, is important. So there should be one subject that we have yet to discuss, called implementation for everything we have talked about. Implementation, right? And because it is end of our class, number 4, it is almost end of our class. So my gift to you is the next slide that I'm planning to have on the 14th. Would anybody like that? 1 hour session on the 14th, same time. I'd like you to bring your failures, your victories, and a lot of questions. And we're gonna go through every single one of them as long as it would take. Because I think it's important for everybody to know whether you're doing it right, not doing it right, you could do it right, but you could do it better. Because I like to have a roundtable conversation when everybody can say what I did, what you did, how you did it work, did it not, why you think it was. I'd like to hear some success stories. I'd really like to hear your success stories. I don't want to hear somebody coming in and say, oh my God, life is hard, I've been busy. I didn't have a chance, I did some of that, but I have no buyers. Well, find a different industry, find a different profession, simple as that. Because if you cannot, for 4 weeks, follow the path to success, then what is our expectation? Mine is 0. If you can't even do that, not for me, for yourself. The whole idea is, remember how we started? It's your business, yours, not mine, it's yours. If you cannot hold yourself accountable, right, and you cannot follow the steps, that maybe it's not for you, simple as that. So I very much appreciate everybody's coming. I hope I have sparked some interest in knowledge and understanding of how to proceed with your careers. It's been a pleasure meeting everybody. And in 2 weeks, we will reconvene.
Did you say November 14th?
Yes, or whenever that is. Whatever, then that week.
Okay.
11th. 11th, I love the 11th. 11th was my jersey when I played. Yes, 11th. November 11th, everybody, November 11th at 11 o'clock. Any questions? No questions? You need to have questions. If you're watching me online, you need to have questions, because I'm pretty certain some things I said, you're scratching your head, didn't quite get, which is quite all right. Please ask questions. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
The last session, you asked us to try to Google house skirting
Yes.
foundations.
I didn't touch base on that in a purpose. Yes.
Right, can you explain that? I've Googled it a little bit and have some stuff here, but does it sound like they used to do that a long time ago and now it'd be coming back into the foundation world, into the thought process?
I don't know who else has an opinion after you stop looking at your phones. Anybody? Good question. I'm not going to answer it just yet. Anybody else looked up what I told you to look up? What it means to have a skirt foundation? Anybody? It's a very common term.
Because foundation drains might clog over time.
That has really nothing to do with it.
Nothing to do.
Nothing to do.
They'll put a perimeter
That has nothing to do with it.
cement around it.
It's a type of foundation, right?
It's a type of foundation, but so when you talk about a skirt or a skirt foundation, and once again, since is it recording online? Okay, oh good. So somebody's gonna hold me to my words. That's great. Accountability. Is somehow people have contractors, some kind of refer to either a cross space because they call it as a skirt, because the type of cross space they have actually pillars inside to support the house, so making sure that basically we talk about is skirt, because when you have a support pillars, right, it's a type of foundation they build as a cross space. But what I was referring to actually, it has a slightly different name because I didn't give you the second part, skirt and what? No, skirt and,
Scarf.
no,
Skirt
and, skirt and,
Decorative.
no. It is.
Short.
No, I'd like you guys to look it up.
Perimeter.
See, I can actually tell you everything about it, but the whole idea was for me to tell you is investigate on your own.
I did, I found a lot of it. Well,
Yeah.
skirting was manufactured, that is, of course, like the other.
And it could be, that
Like
is
for
correct.
raised houses.
So skirting would have been basically something decorative to put an actual foundation, but that is not what I was referring to, because
Wall.
Is it for wet basements?
No.
To prevent this?
No.
Skirt wall foundation.
what does that mean? Hold on, we're getting some. What does that mean? What is a skirt wall? See, the answer should have been, if you guys look on the MLS and look up the type of foundation, the answer is there.
Wait.
It's in the MLS. Why do you think I get it from? I give you half of the answer, right? It's a skirt and,
Slab,
no.
chrome here.
You guys are the peak?
No, you need to know, you guys need to look it up.
Okay.
And when you looked it up, you actually invested some time in yourself to gain knowledge. What I was referring to, technically speaking, that when you see houses from the 1930s and 1940s, what you're gonna go see in those houses, you're gonna have pillars, right? Support pillars, quite a few of them, and you're gonna see actually most likely a brick wall
Here.
around them, and all that wall is cracked in pieces because it has no purpose, because it doesn't support the structure. So when you see that skirt, right, it has nothing to do with the structural integrity of the house from the 1940s, because that actually skirt around that is just cosmetic. So you would be correct. In newer terms, they build that slightly differently, but back then I've seen a lot of houses around Hillsborough Street that I've sold, right, that actually have significant cracks in a brick because there is not what? There is no waterproofing. There is no foundation drain. But it was okay because the house was stable and structurally sound because of the type of construction. So if you know that a foundation that cracks in half is bad, and you go show a house from 1942 to one of your client's parents who are going to buy it as an investment, if you open your mouth that, oh my God, we have to have a structural engineer because that house look like it's cracking in 10 pieces, just talk yourself out of a sale because you don't know. That's why it's important for us to have knowledge and understand what we're selling. We can still misspoke. So don't be a foremost expert and run up and basically give them an education, but for you to know what we're looking at and what era is important, because if somebody asks, you can answer properly. If you see the same thing in the 1990s, highly likely the foundation has moved. Whether you see a straight crack or a zigzag, if you see something in the 1930s, it's a given that it has moved. And you could have basement foundation or cellar foundations, and you can actually have floors that are like a roller coaster, and it might be okay because it's settled. The oldest house I have sold is from 1895. Current code for floor joists is 16 inches on center. It was 24. When I walked, I had to stop because I felt like that I was actually moving, right? But it lasted for 100 years. So who said it's incorrect? It's just not current code. Those are the things that's good to know. Anyways, so thank you.